Hey everybody, welcome back to a special edition of Q Live. My name is Bill Selleck, pronouns are he, him. I'm Director of Technology here at Hillbrook School. And we have one of our communication committee members, Tutul. Long format Q Live interview. We wanted to save this, give it some space on its own away from the conference. So with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Tutul. Enjoy this nice long format Q.
And Val Brown are in the same place. I've never
We're in the
seen
same
Val
place.
in
We need to
person.
talk
I'm
about
very
that,
sad
Mr.
about
Rogers.
that.
We need to talk about that, Mr. Rogers and Mrs. Rogers. What's going on here? Why?
I mean, we're in the
What's
same
going on?
place.
Hey,
We're actually in the
yo,
same
I
place.
know what to tell you. I know what to tell you. So welcome Q Live. My name is Dr. Tutul Ntoya, and I have three very special guests. Doug's in the dark. I don't know why, but three very special guests. When we were talking about Q Live and we were talking about interviewing some folks, I was like, I got to bring these three on because we have a group and we talk about a lot of different things, shenanigans, real life, everything in between. So I thought I'd bring them on. I'm going to introduce each of them first to my, well, I don't know if you guys could see the same thing, but Justin Schleider, he's an educator in New Jersey. He's all things phys ed. Can I say that? Movement? Can I?
Health.
Health.
I love you all.
Health. So, Justin is the man, and everyone here you all need to follow because they are fantastic, phenomenal. And then I'll pass that over to Doug. Doug is a fantastic educator. He's in Delaware, right, Doug? You still in Delaware?
Yep.
Doug is in
Why
Delaware.
did two white dudes gotta go first?
Hey, that's what it is. We gotta save the best for last. We gotta save the misses for last. You know what I'm saying? So
Everybody saw that go in that direction. So it's all
yeah,
good.
of course,
Mhm.
except for Justin. Justin didn't see it. So yeah, Doug, school leader, leading technology innovation in his district, and he's doing a lot of really good things. And I think Justin and Doug, I like talking to them because when we're talking about anything that involves equity and just like meeting people where they're at, they get it. They get it on a bunch of levels. So this is gonna be a real great conversation. And then of course, if y'all don't know Val Brown, go check your life. Go check your Twitter life. Go check your whatever life, because Val Brown. And she thinks I'm joking. She's like a rock star when she posts stuff on Twitter, folks. She's one of those people that you're like, wow, who is that? She posted me like, whoa,
No.
Val
Yes,
Brown just
yes.
posted that. Oh, Val Brown just retweeted. Val Brown liked my post. That is Val Brown,
Yes,
No.
Yes.
who is soon
Really?
to be Dr. Brown.
Yeah.
Which are you gonna be
Well,
Dr.
can
Brown?
I
Are you gonna be
ask
Dr.
you-
Brown?
Yes. I am going to be Dr. Brown in 11 days. Hopefully, if all goes well. Mhm.
Yes.
I will
yes.
send you all the picture of my announcement.
Who's the top three people, top famous three people that you've interacted with on Twitter through your tweets or retweets?
Um,
Don't be
I
shy.
have a few.
Come on.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Let's see here.
What
A
level
personal
person?
favorite of mine. Julian Castro. That's a personal favorite of mine.
See what I'm saying?
Brene Brown.
Okay.
Mm.
Strong.
Carol Anderson.
Strong.
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like it's a bunch. Big Boy. Big Boy.
That's what I was-
Big boy. You mean
Yeah.
big boy?
Yes.
Big boy at ATL big boy or big boy in LA?
Yes. No, Big Boy ATL. Yes.
Yeah.
Outcast. Vivica Fox. Yeah. So
That's
We're
good.
on she's on a different
That's
level.
alright.
She's on a different level.
So I think if Valerie were to have like a party in Miami or Atlanta,
I can't wait to have a party, y'all.
we might have a sighting of somebody.
Yo,
I'm gonna
We
try. I'm gonna
We might.
try.
For sure.
That's fun.
So Val, I know you were working in Florida, based in Florida, doing a lot of great things in Florida, and now you're in North Carolina, killing it.
That's right.
I got to ask you a question. Are you missing the Florida sunshine yet?
No,
Okay.
no. It's a lot of bad things going on right now in terms of equity and justice in Florida, and it's good to be out of there.
That's good. So that's going to be well, before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about how we all met. And of all three of you, Justin was the first one I met, and and I met all y'all on Voxer. So Justin and I were in the cool table. Justin, you and Doug, how did you guys meet?
Yeah, I
we
think
met
through Sarah
Benjamin,
Thomas,
right?
the doctor Thomas. Yeah, she's been the connection for me for a lot of people.
I mean, that's what,
Hmm.
The Dr. Thomas was already
Maybe
connected.
but that's what EdMatch
Well,
is.
Yeah.
It's not a dating service for educators. Literally, it's a connected network of people. So that's why Dr. Thomas is so good at what she does. I mean, I think a lot of us can trace our lines through her.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What happened was EduMatch started, and I was like the 10th person ever to sign up for EduMatch. And then I think what we
No
realized in EduMatch was there was a small sect of us that want to have like a more deeper conversation. So we branched off into a different like EduMatch 2.0 that got a little risque. And then that's I mean, but you know what I mean? Like we just had like real conversations, and that's where Justin and I kind of hit it off.
And then Justin and Val, how did you guys?
You know what? Now you say Dr. Sarah Thomas, that might be how I connected to you, Justin, just like through EduMatch stuff. So I was paying attention to that sphere, even though I don't think I was ever officially a member. But Justin and I met on Twitter. He was failing miserably in a Twitter chat, and I came in and helped him out. And the rest is history. We have since presented together a couple times. So he's the only one I've seen face to face. And he threw a party for me at his house.
I did.
How was he feeling? That's what I want to know too.
Speak up.
We were on a very popular Twitter chat at the time, and I think he was just miscommunicating. That's how I read it. And
White man.
yep,
It was around
it
race.
was around race, and he got called a white supremacist. And I
love it.
I know. Yeah. And so I was watching like the whole thing transpire. And for whatever reason, I just believed that there was just a miscommunication on his part because he was very defensive. And so I did the right thing. I slid into his DMs. I said, "Are you all right?" I did. I'm like, "Are you all right?" And he's like, "No, I'm gonna lose my job. They calling me a white supremacist. People watching me on here." And yeah. You were nervous about it. And I think what happened was that you were receptive to my coaching at that point. And then the rest is history.
Because I was racially unaware, which again is gonna be, society, and I'm sure because of that, there's gonna be prejudice in there. Because I grew up white suburbia and didn't really talk about racial stuff that much. So I just jumped in conversations with my chest, whatever. And I definitely got turned away and turned off from them. But I got to be honest. So Val jumps in DMs and starts stuff. I go, all right, I need to learn. Let's go, whatever. But I will tell you, all them people who were so quick to dogpile, and this is what I wanted to tell you earlier, is none of them offered to help me in my journey. None of them are about bettering people. All they want to do is tear people down who aren't part of groupthink. So that to me was one of the things like, yo, listen, if you wanted to say, hey, listen, here's a silly white dude that doesn't know what's up, that's fine. If you want to do whatever, that's fine as well. But on Twitter, you got to know your people. And they were not, even to this day, they don't lend a hand. They haven't said nothing. They don't jump in to support nothing. So
do they have to though?
Well, here's the deal though. If you're gonna hate on somebody and you're gonna respond and you're gonna push back or whatever it is, then yeah, at some point, if you're not making the change and you're truly about this idea of how do we better humanity and society, then if you see somebody who's not doing what they're supposed to, or doesn't understand or whatever is plain wrong, like your responsibility, if you're gonna engage with them, is to help them find their path, their journey. Now, I'm not saying do the work, but even a little redirection, anything. And if not, then at some point in the future. So again, for me, that's where the issue lies. Like, it's easy to dogpile, and people love it. They love it when a white person says something wild, and they can jump on it, as well as they should. Like, if somebody white says something wild, like, people need to push back on it and say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, whatever. But that's where Val, and you can talk about clear the air, had created a space where it was like, hey, all right, you were unaware, dumb, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to help you become learning. And I think that's the difference between Val Brown and some of these other people out there. of just, one is like gonna attack, boom, boom, boom. If you don't believe me, you don't know what's up, you haven't read, you don't know the deal, we're gonna drag you down, and then we're gonna bring our people, they're gonna drag you down. Or we could have people that go, well, that's a really bad take. Do you understand why? If not, here's a little help. So again, it's not like people of color have to do all the work for white people, but at least, give them an avenue or give them a white person to tag in. Like, yo, my white friend knows what's up. Can you go and handle this business for me? So again, I think that's where Val, and I've been talking a long time, but that's where Val, you shine compared to a lot of other people on the Twitters.
I think one of the things. Go ahead, Val.
Two things. One, I have since tagged Justin into other white people, right? Like, hey, I need you to help out on this case right here because they just need someone white to talk to them. But two, I have enough areas of privilege and enough areas of ignorance that I desperately need help sometimes, right? So I recognize that, and I want to be able to be that bridge for someone as well because I certainly need it. So that was an easy choice to make.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say how for Val, one of the things that really struck me about her is like her questioning. And instead of blasting somebody, it's always a question. Like, what did you mean by that?
Right.
Oh, what did you mean by that phrase you just meant? Did you really mean to call that person whatever? Did you really mean to make that comment? And I think one of the things that you're talking about, Justin, is like that conversation that needs to happen because and I think it's real interesting how you admitted like, yeah, came from a place of privilege and I didn't know any better, and I'm sure the questioning helped you kind of uncover and then helped you along the way, and I'm just wondering how we can do more of that kind of questioning because you're right, it's easy to just call somebody a racist and say, yo, that dude's a racist, she's a racist, but the real work is questioning and having them think through.
Well, and also conversations. And I think part of like what has been unique about us, at least from my perspective, is the four of us have connected in a way that's pretty deep, I would say. And some of the conversations that we've had have been pretty deep and pretty thoughtful and, funny, but also like very thoughtful. And it's unique in that we've connected in this way, like without knowing each other locally. Like, again, I've never met Val face to face. I've met Justin. I've talked to Justin maybe 6 times total, to Tool once that time in Philly. And that was it. Like, but we still have this connection. Most of mine, so like for Justin and probably a lot of white people who live in like white areas don't have interactions with people of color. And that's kind of where, like, for me, it's, I have been blessed because my local group, I've worked with and grown up with a lot of people of color. So like I've had people checking me along the way from very early. Sometimes I'm still say wild stuff. I mean, but people will like say like, Doug, that's like that you're going the wrong direction with that one. Like, what are you talking about? Like, okay. So like, let me know, like people who truly know me and care about me. And I've been lucky that way. But for those that haven't, experience those sort of things, I think this sort of platforms like Voxer, and I know this is not a Voxer advertisement, but it's good that we have spaces that you can connect with. And I think through your work with Q to Tool, I think the people that might listen to this recording, you just have to seek it out. And people are out there that want to have conversations, that want to better other people. To Justin and Val and your point, like, you just got to find them. You got to find your little tribe. You know what I mean?
What do you guys say to those educators? I hear this a lot. What do you guys say to those educators, those white educators who say, I don't want to mess up. I'm afraid to have the conversation because I don't want to mess up. What do you?
Messing up's the best part. And then you can joke about it, especially when you have, I'm just kidding. No, that's a big, I don't know. That's a good question.
You just are going to mess up. Like, this is, I think part of having these conversations is to set expectations. You're going to mess up regardless of how hard you try. And you can do a lot of work independently, right? I can do a lot of work in my affinity groups, but I won't know how well I'm doing until I do it in an interracial group, right? And until you start to engage with someone different from you to see how well you are able to apply your learning. I think also, and this is a conversation that's happening on Twitter and Voxer as well, you have to have love for people in doing this work. Like, you just have to, and recognize someone's potential. So as an educator, I'm in the human development business. I have to believe that humans can develop, because if I don't believe that, then why waste my time in this profession? And so regardless of where you are on your journey as a white person specifically, and whether or not you're going to mess up because you are, that doesn't mean you don't start. And I think I get more frustrated when people choose not to start because they don't want to mess up than those who mess up as they're moving along.
I mean, not everything has to be done in public. I think that's where we get confused. Like, I was all willing to jump on Twitter chats because, you know, I have the confidence of a white cisgender heterosexual male. But you don't have to do everything in public. So again, there are private groups, there are different groups that you could be a part of and do the work. I mean, nowadays, everyone's written a book about every part of what we're doing. There's nothing that can be said now that there's not a book, there's not a blog, there's not a podcast, there's not a movie. Like, everything has already been covered. There are very few things where you're like, wow, I never heard this before. So you could do the work on your own and then find people to have the conversations if you're worried about the public learning. But again, it's back to the point of, if you only know white people, then who's going to do the work with you? And almost, I don't want to say for you, but it's going to be on that journey. If you don't know people of color, now you haven't invested in any relationships. So what random person of color is going to be like, sure, white person who has waited till they're 40 to figure out racial things.
This one, I only know one. The random person of color who is willing to know about occasionally.
Well, but also you got to understand too, with white people, and I know I feel like we're centering this conversation on white people, which is fine. When you're in white spaces, when you're in white spaces, like bringing up these sort of conversations is not normal. Like, you're looked at as being the weirdo in that space. Now I shouldn't say never. I very rarely have I been in an all Black person space where like we just start talking about race either. But I imagine from some of the things that I've done that the conversation amongst people of color is more common and or more comfortable than it is for white people. Like, talking about your race as white people, you just don't ever do it. Like, why? Like, why would you? Like, there's no reason to. And I think that's part of the problem. Like, it's not acceptable. It's not an accepted behavior in society amongst white spaces. And I think that's where, when I bring stuff up, like, people in my local, like, people I know, like, they know where Doug's coming from. Like, they're like, oh, there's Doug again. But it always is like, there's Doug again. Like, why are you, like, why am I the one, we can all do this work. It's just, it's hard to begin the conversation. And I don't know, Justin, if you feel the same way sometimes when you're hanging out with just your white friends, but it's just, no one sits down and is like, why are we, like, what's going on here?
Well, I think you mess with the status quo a little bit when you do that, and you run the risk of alienating people and being othered from the group, because now suddenly, you're not one of everyone in the group. You're kind of standing out, and it can open some of the floodgates. But also know that any majority identity we're in, the majority group doesn't really talk about it and focus on it. Like, we're all physically able. When's the last time you all said, wow, it was a great job that I walked into work today? So I think that's part of it. White people haven't been forced to confront it and talk about it because they are the majority and they're not being negatively impacted by the race, whether they think they were or not. So I think that's part of the issue as well.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of, my kids are in the background here, but it's all good. It's all about education, right, people? So there's a lot of things that are going on out there, and a lot of negativity, and not negativity, but challenges we can talk about, and we can bring them up here. But I wanted to talk just moving forward, like, what does it look like to actively, or how are you guys pushing for change actively in the spaces that you're in? And I just want to have that conversation so we can just talk about, like, action steps to get to a better place.
That's good. Who wants to go first?
Val should go first. This is her life's work.
Well, like later life. But So I'm the academic director for the Center for Anti-Racist Education, and our job is to equip anti-racist educators. And so one thing that I'm really proud of that we just released is our CARE anti-racism framework, which looks at the behaviors and dispositions and knowledge of anti-racist educators and how to not just have educators say, I'm anti-racist, but what does this actually mean in their practice? And it's based on our 5 principles of anti-racism: affirm the dignity and humanity of all people, embrace historical truths, develop a critical consciousness, recognize race and confront racism, and then create just systems. And so in order to be anti-racist, we thought it was important to have a concise definition of what that means so people aren't stumbling through that. And so check us out at antiracistfuture.org as we are releasing things, but that's part of my work. And then just for fun, I like to convene educator activists who are trying to figure out how to do this work in their local areas. So yeah, I guess that's like,
Yeah, that is interesting. I know that work sometimes wears on you, right? Because you're going through all these different things that happen. I know I'm working with the African American Parent Council here locally in my son's district, and you know, every day we're confronted with the system and how to dismantle the system. But it seems like it's just so daunting. Like there's always something that's always flying at us. We have one initiative coming up, things are flying at us. We have another initiative come up, things are flying at us, and it gets really, it just feels like the work there's nowhere for it to land.
Mm,
But then you have some breakthroughs, and you have parents who come through and say, "Yeah, this is great." Our meetings have been really packed. We've had these phenomenal speakers, and I'd love for you guys to come out and speak to my parent group. But just the fact that parents have a space, an advocacy space, where we can
mhm,
talk about Black kids. Our motto is our Black kids are our business, and we
mm,
really look to like just center. And it's so weird when doing this work. There's always this. Do you want to make it too black? Do we have to like water it down a little bit? Should we say all kids are our business, or can we say Black kids are our business? It almost seems like we need some type of justification or
mm,
validation behind
mhm,
centering Black people. Then you stop and say, why do we need to why do we need to validate the fact that we want to center Black kids?
mhm,
Seeing all the data, seeing what's happening to the Black kids. Um, so here's an opportunity to center the conversation on Black kids. So let's do it unapologetically. And it took a while for us to
Hmm.
get to that point. And now we're
mhm,
at this point now. We're like, whatever, we're this is gonna be about Black kids. And I think it's starting to resonate with more parents, and we're starting to get a little bit of momentum, and we're working on some really meaty things. So I'm really excited about that. And it's weird being a parent, not even an educator. Coming at this from a parent perspective. So I have a totally different slant now on what
mhm.
education should look like for not just my kids but all kids, and how we're all stakeholders in this. So it's it's been real interesting to do that side of the work. And Justin and Doug, I don't know if you guys want to chime in on some of the stuff that you may be doing.
No, that's awesome. I think that's really cool. That's all. Honestly, um, and I don't ever call you Dr. Natoya, but I should because you are a doctor, sir.
It's all
Um,
paper, man. It's all paper.
hey. Now that's really awesome. I don't belong to an all-white father group or anything like that, so I have nothing to compare to that. But what I do on a regular basis is just trying to interrupt the conversation. I come at it from a position where I have some power in my local district, relatively, and I'm able to interrupt conversations and have. I'm part of the equity group with the district, that sort of stuff, like that sort of stuff that's on paper that, does trainings and that sort of thing and make decisions. But on like a day-to-day basis, for me, it's really just interrupting conversations and being like, hold on a second, like, did I hear you correctly when you just said that? Like, I have an example from middle school last week where I interrupted a teacher that I was walking down the hallway and I heard her say something. And I said, hold on. I said, I'm Doug Tim with technology, but I also, want you to understand like what you just said there, I think was not really, good for kids. And she was kind of taken back by it. But it's become so normal for me at this point that I just don't care at this. I'm just like, all right, well, I just want to make sure that you're aware that other people are noticing your ignorance. And it's not okay. yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But I don't like with your group and what Val are doing. You guys are like, that's awesome. I don't have anything that I'm actively doing like that, but it's just my day-to-day interactions with people. I think that I'm trying.
Well, Doug was on my webinar about it, so
That's
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doug, and I think you don't take for granted that those conversations, because I know
But as a
you've
building
stood up.
principal, I know, but as a building principal, I have like an active plan. Like that's where I was a building principal before my current position, and I had active plan where like every 2 weeks, like the teachers and I were meeting and doing some stuff, and like that, I felt like we were, doing some stuff. And now I'm kind of trying to figure out where my lane is when it comes to equity work, in this new position. But I'll find it anyway.
All
Good
right, so
times.
again, don't downplay the equity group, because being on the equity group, they actually have a decent amount of power, specifically around like the facilitation and creation of professional development and professional learning. So you have your hand right there, like through that group, and at least for in my district, through that group, that's where I impact my entire school and my district. So that group is bringing, like, we brought Val in, and we had these they were called equity warriors at the time, and now they're called equity champions. And we ran, so Val would train us and turnkey, and we would turnkey to all our staff about all different issues of equity. And it was amazing. It was really, really cool. And now we have a chief equity officer or whatever, something like that. And, he's doing the work, and we're meeting together and doing some things. So I think those groups are really, really important to get involved with, because that's where you're going to be one-on-one, not one-on-one, but you'll be with admin in a really close level. Like I work with my superintendent, who I would never see if I was not on this equity thing. Like I would never be in a room with him. I wouldn't have his phone number. I wouldn't be able to hit him up. Like, I would just be one of 400 or whatever it is of the staff that we have. So through this equity group, you're going to create strong bonds with administration, have their ear. That's what they're there for. And then individually in the classroom, a couple things. First, I would say if you're really trying to make this journey, take some data about how you treat your Black kids in class. So how many times are we calling on them? Who are we saying hello to first? Like one of the things I really intentionally worked on was saying hello to any of the Black girls in my class first. Because I was like, this is a group that's underrepresented. The stats show, especially phys ed and health, right, that they don't really want to participate as much or are uncomfortable. And there's a bunch of things. So I was like, if I do that, it's one actionable, easy step. And just first, and not faking it, because I say hello to everybody. I might say like 4,000 hellos a day, but be intentional about that. If you want another step, videotape your class yourself. You don't have to tell anyone, right? You're scared to go tell your coworker what you're doing. You don't have to tell them. Video, I'm doing this just for whatever, professional development, whatever it is you want to do. And then keep track. Find some evidence. And then the other thing is really get that critical consciousness that Val was talking about, of how am I presenting the material and how's it landing with my kids, and checking in with them. So I will, and help for me is like a supernatural alignment. Like I literally bring up like, well, look at race and life expectancy. Like it's literally right there. When we talk about jobs, I literally say, hey, here's the data showing that a white person with a record is going to get the same amount of callbacks for a job interview than someone with a Black sounding name. I mean, so when we talk about all these things in health, everything aligns perfectly with what I already do. And I understand my subject and social studies and English are the easiest by far, because it's all right there. It's writing, it's history, it's facts and data surrounding health. So it's a really easy flow. It's a little harder, I think, when you get some of the other stuff with the maths and sciences of how to do that. That's not my area of expertise. But if you're the other ones, I mean, it's super easy to integrate it in your class. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And just one more action step that I had as a building principal, one of the things that we did a few years ago was we pulled up referrals, and the writing that you put in the referral, as far as like what a kid did, you looked at kids of color versus white kids, and then read that wording, and words like aggressive and demonstrative. I mean, like just it's completely different with kids of color, and just reading through referrals with your staff, is crazy wild. But anyway, go ahead.
I was just gonna also add that Justin also pushes his other outside organizations as well. So I just wanted to let everybody know that Justin and Doug are both doing things that they forgot to mention. I'm proud of them.
Oh, and
Yeah,
I will
man.
tell you, when your other equity groups, so we have like a BAC, Black Education Educator, or something like that. There's a Latinos, Unidos organization. Show up for those. Literally, you don't have to say nothing. You literally just show up, and your presence being there shows support, and then it shows like, oh, this person's like about it, right? Because they're taking their time and energy supporting those groups. So I went on one call, it was all in Spanish. I knew nothing, literally nothing, the entire call. Some they said, like, Mr. Schleider, would you like to introduce yourself? I was like, hola, me llamo es Senor Schleider. Like, it was so bad. And I got done, my wife speaks like a little Spanish. She's like, you don't have to say the S in there, like, whatever. But again, you're out there, you're showing your support, you're trying. That's all people want to see, is that you're trying and getting back to the idea of love. If you truly love people, then you're going to want to create the best bond possible. And that only comes from knowing people and knowing about people. And these are the conversations we have to get to if you really want to know your students and your staff.
Just show up. You know what? Thank you so much for this conversation. I'm just thinking about all these conversations that I have with non-Black educators, and it's always like, oh, what do I do? And do you have a African American parent council at your school? Do you have a, whatever parents? Where are the parents of color? Where they show up there? If you don't have it at your school, there's a space somewhere. Show up there, because that's where the real learning is going to be, and that's when you get to hear what folks are saying, what is happening out there, what you may not be able to see because of your own biases, because you're living in this space and you never get in contact with anybody of color. So you need to get out of that space and dive headfirst into some of these spaces where you're the only white person, and that'll help you just get why things are the way they are. So thank you so much for this conversation. Before we end, I want to talk a little bit music, just a little bit, because I promised we would. And so you're going out to keynote this huge speech. I don't know where it's going to be. Maybe it's in front of the president and them, or maybe it's at some inaugural thing or whatever, and there's be a bunch of people there. This is your first one, and you need to get hype. What are you playing in your earphones to get you going, get your juices flowing, and be like, let's do this? What you got?
It's funny. I got a funny story. Justin came to Colonial Tech Conference a couple of times, and I used to quote unquote DJ or MC the event. And Justin walked out one time and literally fell down on purpose, which was hilarious on his introduction. But anyway, I don't know. You guys can go. I mean, I know my song. It's been my song forever. But
what do we got?
What's your song?
All right,
And I remember a video of that. What year was that? I feel like I saw it on the internet. And I was like, this is someone I need to follow.
No, listen, because you had to give like a 30-second stump speech about why people should come to your section. Like, not even, might have been like 15 seconds. So I was like, yo, how can I hook these people? How can I hook? And I had just seen a Family Guy episode where he fell down and he was just like, ow, ow. And like for like 30 seconds or 45 seconds, like to the point where you're cracking up because it's so above and beyond dramatic. And that's what I wanted to do. So I came out running like I was going to trip on the chair on purpose and just started doing it out there. Listen, people, remember that.
I remember the video.
He told me this idea, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. He's like, no, we're doing it. We're doing it. I'm like, all right, we're doing it. Fine. People, if you had to be there, people are like, oh my God, is he hurt? People are rushing to him.
All right. So to answer your question, so it's funny. I got to tell you, I'll preface this with a quick story and then tell you the number one. So I got a gift. It was my birthday, right? Just turned 40 on Tuesday. So I got a gift. It's a vinyl record pressing. So I get to pick 12 songs and send it to this company, and they will press them into a vinyl and send me a vinyl record, right? So I'm like, yo, what are the 12 songs I'm going to get? So again, right there from that beginning gift, I've been going through everything rat 1990 to like 2005. So anyway, I have like 20 something that I'm ready for, and I got to whittle it down. From that list, it's always going to be my come out song, This Means War with Busta Rhymes and Ozzy Osbourne. It is my wrestling high school song that we used to come out with. Talk about like a blending of hardcore rap with rock coming together. And maybe a little cheesy to people who are like straight rap fans out there, and people who are straight rock fans are like, dude, that song, what are you doing? But together, this fusion, it is amazing, because this means war. And you got when it comes in, and then Busta Rhymes' energy, it's just one of my favorite songs of all time. So that's what I'm doing. If I'm going to get hyped up, that's what I'm coming out to.
I represent the South 99% of the time. And I just told you that Big Boy shouted me out on Twitter, or just like retweeted me. He didn't shout me out. He just retweeted me, quote tweeted me. But his latest album has, like, I really credit his latest album with getting me through my dissertation. But the first song on there is The Big Sleep Over. And he has this line, I'm perfection personified. Oh, see, now I'm not gonna be able to do it right. I'm perfection personified on the first take. And I just keep that in my head. So that's my hype song right now. And it will be like a quote on my graduation picture.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm really excited about that, by the way. Mine is Jay-Z. I don't know the name of the song. I Will Not Lose. I will not lose ever. Like, the whole song is kind of cool, but then at the very end, he says, I will not lose ever, suckers. Da 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 da. Ah, da 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 da. Yo. I'm going. Look, I'll go out and play ball right now, Doug. Let's do it. Let me put on the Jay-Z song. I'll go out right now. Let's go hoop. Put on my shorts, t-shirt, my shoes. Let's do it. I'll give you a good 5 minutes.
All right, here's mine. Hold on. Oh, you can't hear it.
We're all in our 40s now, so we got to take it easy.
Can you hear that?
That's true. I said 5 minutes, Val. I said 5 minutes.
Can you guys hear that?
Nah.
We can't hear nothing.
Want to make sure no one can sound.
All right, I'm sorry.
We can hear it.
Barely,
So
but we can hear it.
Mine is I Ain't No Joke, Eric B. and Rakim. Like,
Good.
people think I'm a joke. Like, people really literally think I'm a joke all the time. And because I joke around all the time. So, like, people don't take me seriously. And it's like, I get it. But I really am a serious person. So, I Ain't No Joke, but Eric B. and Rakim, that's always my walkout song.
That's interesting. Our song selections are interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting.
I ain't no joke. I love that song. All right, so Q Live. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Doug, Justin, Val, soon to be Dr. Brown. And I keep pushing Justin and Doug to go back, and we could all be like 4 doctors.
We could.
Have a podcast called 4 Doctors.
We could.
Listen, I'm a white dude. I just walk in with credibility.
Okay.
And I'm tall and handsome.
Ooh.
It's all good.
All right. Okay.
Honestly, it's straight capitalism. That's the only reason why I respect the heck out of doctors. I think the fact that you can take one area and go so deep and become so expertise at one small area is fantastic. I would love to find my passion and just go in that one little area as deep as possible. I just don't have like 100K laying around, 60K, whatever it is, 80K. Just be like, hey, here we go.
Well,
So it's tough. So I respect you and Val.
well, maybe we're
not white men, so we got to do what we got to do.
We got it. Oh man, Val, that's a whole nother can of worms that we can talk about for another hour.
Can of worms.
Are we done recording
Hey,
that? Are we done recording
We're
that?
about to be finished recording. Thank you for being on Q Live. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. Follow everyone. Just type their names in Twitter. Guarantee you'll find them because they out here. Peace out.